Right, good morning, good afternoon, good start. Sorry, I'm sat at clock watching, and what is it they say about a watch pot never boiling? Half past behind my watch, 2 p.m. I do normally give this talk in the morning, so apologies. But I've had my coffee, so I'm wide awake. My name's Simon Drayson. I am a director of an architects practice called George and James Architects. We're based in Midhurst, West Sussex, so we've come about 45 minutes north today, and we cover Hampshire, Surrey, Sussex, and further afield for the right project. I'm going to talk to you today about the 5 essential things to tell your architect when briefing them for your home project. Now, on the face of it, that might sound, a bit boring, and I'm going to try and use humour to make it a bit more accessible. And also, we're very aware as architects that every single client is different, every single project is different, every single site is different. And trying to sort of shoehorn a process into a one-size-fits-all box is not easy. So the questions I'm going to be asking you today are rhetoric, so you've got to take them away and sort of debate them into the small hours before then coming back to an architect with your answers. And you won't have all the answers at this stage of a project. It's perfectly okay to ask questions, to say you need to take 5 to regroup, do some research, whatever you might need. So as a bit of context before I dive into the 5 things, a typical inquiry for us looks something like, we've lived in our home for a couple of years, it's dark, it's cramped, we need an open plan kitchen diner, an extra bedroom, and we've got not enough storage. Now, that's a perfectly adequate brief. That sounds like the brief when I moved into my home 2 years ago, and I think I did all right by my own brief. But those things, there's questions behind those statements, such as, okay, well, what are you storing? Actually, I've got, and I know this because I cleared out my wardrobe last weekend, 10 pairs of shoes, cut down from 15. I was quite proud of that. But you might have 200 shoes, so your storage is going to look quite different. That's just an example. So anyway, 5 things. Number 1, time. So a lot of people we've spoken to over this weekend are at the very early stages of their project, and that's absolutely fine. We kind of, projects can take a long time, especially with economic changes. That's a constant goal that we're trying to, a shifting goalpost that we're trying to chase. Planning, hiccups along the way. So anyway, I'm going to start my questions. So we start looking at it from the other end. This house extension or this new build, when do you actually want to move in? Is there a baby due in 9 months? Is there a aging parent that's going to move in with you when they sell their house in a year? So looking at it sort of from the end goal and then working backwards is a really good way of looking at it. A decent architect should be telling you whether that's realistic or not. This is a really important one. Do you have time right now to invest in your project? You can pay us all the fees in the world, and we'll obviously put all the time in that the project needs, but we need a lot from clients. Actually, if you know that it's a really busy quarter for you at work because it's financial year end or whatever, that might not be the right time, and we might need to put a pause on your project until you've got the time for those half-day workshops or 2-hour Zoom meetings or whatever it is. I touched briefly on sort of planning implications, and that's one example of a bump in the road. If you live in a sort of rural property or an older property with hung tiles on the walls or a tile roof, you might find that there are bats living in that roof, which are a protected species, and you can only do certain surveys within certain times of the year. So if someone comes to us in November and we know that they're going to need bat surveys, we can't even put a planning application in until April. So, we'll obviously, our architects should be transparent with you with the programme, but these are things to just sort of try and foresee those bumps. And yeah, if the baby's on the way, yes, you need that spare room. But is it really the right time now? Maybe no one has a crystal ball, but maybe prices will drop. Who knows? Maybe you need time to. If you moved into your house in September, say, where are we now? January. I'd want to see what my garden was like in spring and summer and autumn, to sort of see that light moving around the house, so that I know, okay, where do I want to sit on that lazy Saturday in summer? And that might be the sort of pause point that you need. Number 2, cost, a big one. So we never talk about, we try not to talk about budget. I realise it's on this slide. We ask questions about investment, because the way that we see home projects is, yes, you've got the house, the price you paid for the house, the price you're going to pay for the building work and the architect's fees. But if this is a forever home, and let's say that I've got another 50 years if I'm lucky, what's the value of each one of those years to me? And that's sort of why we talk about investment. There's the sort of build cost, VAT, contingency, fees on top. So again, when communicating with an architect, make sure you're telling them sort of the bottom line, and then helping them work back to a build cost. There's lots of other extra niceties that can go with projects that are often forgotten about. Landscape design, often left to the last minute, but worth thinking about, because especially if you sort of want that inside-outside connection. Joinery, nothing wrong with an IKEA wardrobe, but if you want to kind of go fitted, that's something that's worth communicating from the start, so we can set aside that bit of budget for it. And then interior design, is that something you're going to take on yourself, something you want to hire a award-winning name in interior design to come in, or something that an architect might be able to do for you. The next one, funding, is something, I know there's a few stands here today that are talking about loans and mortgages and all the rest of it. That's really important for us to know. Is it you're doing it from cash? Do you get an annual bonus and you're hoping it's going to be X%, but you're not sure and you won't know until April or whatever? Those are things that, again, you need to sort of just be completely open with your architect about. Architects, I think of all our clients as friends, and it's that sort of relationship where you have to be open, and also your architect should tell you some home truths. Even if they're sort of uncomfortable about how far a budget will go, they should be sort of keeping you in check. Whether you decide to listen or not is another thing entirely. And contingency. I think I was having a conversation with a tile company that is supplying tiles for this project, actually, in Herefordshire, and we were talking about build costs, and a rule of thumb for contingency used to be 10%, and then we sort of, in the last few months, years, where prices have gone a bit crazy, and the sort of future of them, the risk of them going crazier, we sort of were calling that 15. So it's basically important to tell an architect that this pot of money, that's it, or actually, there is this bit more, or I can call in this favour, or whatever it is. It's just being transparent, and obviously having that openness with us, so we can respect your money. 3, this is quality, and by now you may have noticed time, cost, quality are the 3 sort of triangle points of a classic project management thing. And the rule of thumb is that you can only get 2 out of 3 typically. So it's kind of, where is that compromise? And we'll talk about compromise in just a sec. With quality, and I talked about that sort of, if I'm lucky, next 50 years, and the value I put on that, actually, I did and I shouldn't really call it this, but we did a quick and dirty job on my house because it's not my forever home. And I wanted to get it done so I could get on with running a business and doing clients' homes. So we didn't go for kind of smart home integration and whatever it is that is what fires you up about your home. Again, this is kind of the next 2 points are kind of two polar opposite approaches, and we work with clients from both ends of this spectrum. Are you kind of keeping up with the proverbial Joneses, and it is about the gold taps or the flashy lights outside that keep your neighbours awake through the night? Or actually, do you just want to create something that's personal to you for a happy, healthy home that might not grace the pages of Home Building and Renovation magazine, but you're gonna enjoy them. So again, that's a different thing for every person. Form and function. Mies van der Rohe, famous architect from about 100 years ago, talked about form and function. Does it look good? Does it work well? We strive for both. But again, you might have a leaning towards one or the other. You might be led by fashion, or you might sort of be led by just being able to cook a dinner from start to finish without tripping over whoever else is in the home, dogs included. Priorities. Now this is where I talked about compromise, because, and this is something that we've actually, since I gave this talk last summer, started asking our clients to do. We take their brief, we put it into bullet points, and we ask them to prioritize from 1 to 10. And it's kind of non-negotiable, open, somewhere in the middle, and then open to conversation. And it just means that we know what's really important for you as a client. If you're in a couple, it's really important that you get on the same page before you talk to an architect, or at least the first line of the same page. We often sort of have to fill the shoes of marriage counsellor, so that's kind of might not come as a surprise. So we'll see. So talked about time, cost, quality. Again, just telling us, okay, actually, like my house, I'm in it for the next, I say 8 years. My husband says 3, and we're almost on the same page. And actually, it needed to be, we wanted quality, so actually we compromised on cost, and we probably paid a little bit more because we wanted it quick and of a quality. It's not on our website. And quality or quantity. This is a age-old question. My 10 pairs of mid-range shoes, would I trade them all in tomorrow for one pair of Lokes? Probably not, because I'd be too precious about where I wear them. If you're kind of coming with the I want the 3-meter extension at the back, our question back to you will be, okay, well actually, what's that space for? What are you doing in it? If it's a kitchen diner, our question is, okay, well how many people do you have round for dinner? How many people normally having dinner? Okay, 2 of us, and we occasionally have 6, and once a year we have 10. So there's no point in us putting that table in for 10, or and that extra bit of space might cost you £10,000-20,000, when actually at Christmas you could just cram or move that sofa or whatever it is. So we kind of have those frank conversations with you. And I think a really powerful question is kind of, what is that top priority? Is it resale value? Is it that sort of safe space for those children, or for that elderly relative? So coming at us with your top priority, and that's really important, because every single decision that we make with you will be kind of governed by that. Number 5, and I've got about 2 minutes, and then we'll move on to Q&A. Number 5, peculiarities. Now this is kind of, like I said right at the start, every project is unique. And planning restrictions is one. I keep coming back to this. Maybe you're in a national park. This is in the South Downs National Park, so there's extra hoops to jump through. An AONB, an area, sorry I got that wrong, AONB, area of outstanding natural beauty, conservation areas, listed buildings, etc. Most local authorities, although they make it purposefully hard to find on their websites, I feel, they have these planning maps, and you can put a pin on your house and it will tell you the planning policies that apply. Health and safety complications. Maybe you've got a garage that was built in the 50s that might have an asbestos roof, or you've got buried medieval well or who knows what. So that's really important to communicate with us because we've got a legal duty to kind of pass that information on to contractors. Neighbours. Neighbours being, like Marmite, I think. And you've got to think, well, they are key stakeholders in your projects, unless you're lucky enough to have a massive plot and they're miles away. But basically, I think communicating with them early on, taking early sketches to them just to kind of warm them up with a bottle of wine or a cake or whatever they're into is going to kind of help. And we've had projects where we painted a sidewall white because it was something that a neighbour was looking out into. And it just helped smooth that planning process along. Children or pets, talked about those a couple of times. Remembering that children grow. That's something I always have to remind clients. And pets have a habit of multiplying. I'm hoping my one dog will soon become 2. And last but not least, and then we will move on to Q&A, things that make your project unique. Do you collect Hornby trains and want to set up a weird mini kind of city in your loft? We've had a client do that. Are you into Lego? Whatever it is, do you want to seal your handbags? Whatever is really important to you, tell us. We might not, it might not be our thing, but we know it's yours, and then we'll get behind it. So there they are. Hopefully that's helpful. We're going to try and put this slide up on YouTube and things. So there's some shameless plugs for our website and things. That's us. We're on B102, which is all the way over in the corner by the lady burning eggs in a pan. Hopefully that was helpful. All right. Thank you.